I saved up some copper wire for a while to make a video out of going to the scrapyard with it. And actually got some nice copper pipe in here too, and some brass. But I'm not going to take that brass with me this time, because the scrapyard I'm going to take this copper wire to will give me number 2 insulated for all of it, even this low-grade telephone wire, even all the low-grade stuff like this. As long as I cut all the ends off, I'll get number 2 insulated. Whereas other scrapyards would give me a low grade, like, you know, 10 or 15 cents a pound for that. But the scrapyard I'm going to take all this to will give me 50 cents a pound for everything. But that scrapyard happens to be non-favorable towards brass. Like for dirty brass, they don't even have a dirty brass category. So I'd take all my brass to a different place. So what I'm going to do is cut all the ends off of all this wire, and I've already done, you know, probably 60–70% of it, so it's not going to take me very long. But you know, as long as you cut all the ends off, yeah, I've got a bunch of number 1 insulated wire in here too, like that good stuff right there, and all that yellow stuff down in there is number 1. And there's some number 1 mixed up in there, and some Christmas lights I gotta take out, because that will go as a low grade wire. But and I gotta take like the brass. Well, actually, this particular scrapyard, I can leave those brass pieces on there, and I'll still get copper. So that is one benefit. But for some reason, as far as brass goes, they're not too favorable. But if you save up your wire, you always want to take the ends off, and that's the kind of tool you want right there. There's just nothing better than that, a quality pair of snips. And you know, a cheaper brand of snips will work too, as long as the blades are even and they cut. But you know, you go with like Cobalt or Stanley, a brand like that, and that's just the tool you want right there. I mean, there's just no replacement for that as far as cutting the ends off of this wire. But I'm gonna clean up all this wire real quick and see what we're dealing with. All right, so there's a lot of it right there. Those 2 buckets are all number 2 insulated. Here's copper pipe down in there. Mixed in with a little bit of copper wire. And this is all the number 1 insulated wire. And there may be somebody that watch this that don't know the difference between number 1 and number 2 wire. Number 1 insulated is that thick stuff. See how it's just one big thick wire in there? And the number 2 insulated will be stuff like this, the braided kind. Oh, there's a piece of 1 hiding in there with the yellow. And you can just tell by feeling it. Number 2 insulated will be, you know, you can flex it and it just pops back into shape. Whereas number 1 insulated, you go like that to it and it just stays like that. So that's real easy to tell the difference. And then a bunch of brass too. I don't got time to mess with that right now. There's a piece of copper stuck on there on that brass, but that's all brass and gold plated stuff in here. Like a lot of those wires will have that those kind of plugs, and there's little gold plated teeth on there. So I keep them in a bucket. I'll take that brass to a different scrapyard some other day. I won't mess with it right now. Oh, look at this I found. I was gonna play Mystery Box Theater. I brought this home. I didn't even look at it, but I couldn't bear not looking at it, so I popped it open. It's like a little slide projector, little Kodak. I didn't have time the other day. I was gonna play Mystery Box Theater with that, but that would have been a good one too. Oh well, kind of interesting. I had some Christmas lights they'll just go by themselves. They're almost worthless. Just that amount's almost worthless, but. So I'll take this to the scrapyard and I'll get the receipt and show you how much it all weighed. I actually had a little more than I thought. That's probably 60 pounds, maybe 20 pounds of number 1 insulated, maybe 20 pounds of copper, 15 pounds of brass. We'll get the exact weights. I'll show you the receipt. There's the load ready to go to the scrapyard. That should be close to 100 pounds of copper in there. It's filled up all the way from the bottom of this green bucket. It's filled up all the way up to there. So it's gonna be a nice little load. Let's go have a look, see what it is. Well, it turned out I had 120 pounds of copper. I had 28 pounds of number 1 insulated copper, 77 pounds of number 2 insulated copper, 11 pounds of number 2 copper, 4 pounds of number 1 copper. And the difference between number 1 and number 2 copper is number 2 copper will have like welds that'll weld, you know, pieces of copper pipe together. It'll have like soldering material where the copper's welded together. And then number 1 copper will just be just pure copper, no soldering, no solder welds. And it looks like on Christmas lights, I actually had a pound, I thought, but it had like a little computer glitch. But it's just a nickel a pound, so that's no big deal. But altogether it was $97.20. So it wasn't a bad little load. And for the number 1 insulated copper, I got $1.05 a pound. The number 2 insulated copper was 50 cents a pound. The number 2 copper was $1.90 a pound. Number 1 copper was $2.10 a pound. And I held on to that copper load for, I think it was about a 12-day span where I picked all that up. So that's not too bad. Oh yeah, and I wanted to say something about stripping that copper. Like I could have stripped a lot of the, you know, I could have stripped all that number one insulated copper. I have a wire stripping rig like that right there. But pulling all that wire through there is, it gets, you know, it's actually quite a bit of work. It takes quite a while. So, you know, even though, like if you strip number 1 insulated wire, you know, if you strip that number 1 insulated wire, you know, you'll double your money. You know, you'll go from $1.05 a pound to $2.10 a pound. So you'll gain $1 a pound, but it takes a considerable amount of time to strip a pound of wire. You know, it's not something you just do. You know, you don't just gain the money. You got to put work in to do that, and it's fairly time consuming, and pulling all that wire by hand through there, it gets old pretty quick. So you do it for a few hours, and you realize it's nothing, you know, it's no easy deal. But you know, for some people it might be you know, a good deal, but for me, I have so many things going on, and you know, even at the most rapid pace, you know, you're not going to do large amounts an hour. So you know, if you gain $1 a pound, you know, and you can do, you know, if you know, you'd have to do 10 pounds an hour, which is actually a lot more than you might think, to make $10 an hour. You know, and if you do less than that, you know, you're looking at, you know, minimum wage money. So yeah, you hear stuff, you know, about stripping wire, but it's not always, you know, you might hear a lot of stuff about scrapping metal that isn't exactly right. You know, I mean, you will make money stripping that wire, but you're not going to get rich off of doing it. You know, you're not going to make a whole lot of money doing that. So But you had like an electric, some sort of electric stripper machine, you know, like a real expensive stripping machine. They could just do all the work for you. That's when it's really worth it. But doing it by hand, it's work. I mean, it's not it's not something you're going to make tons of money doing. Like, you know, there's just no way around that. Now, not doing it by hand, you're not. But if you have time on your hands, you know, and there's plenty of people that are in that situation for whatever reason, you know, you can make, you know, you can make $7 or $8 an hour. You know, if you got to be in your house for some reason anyway, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing it, you know. But for me, I just got other things I could be doing, like taking care of this giant stack of computers over here. You know, I have too many other things to do. So I just take all that wire to the scrapyard and just be done with it. You know, there's actually quite a bit of value in you know, just taking stuff to the scrapyard, because you don't have to do any work, you know. Like I made all this money on this insulated copper wire, and you know, I didn't have to do any work, you know. So to make an extra $1 a pound, I have to put in physical labor. But you know, all this right here, you know, I don't have to put in any more physical labor than it took to find it. You know what I mean? So there's always value in that.